Our next speaker hails from the ODEE department here at OSU, which, in case you don't know, is the Office of Distance Education and eLearning. This is Jeff Vernon, who is the Strategic Initiative Manager for ODEE. And has been affiliated with higher education as a student, instructor, and professional for the past 18 years. He earned his degrees in history and political science from that institution, that school out west, Indiana. But he went on to law school, which led to a job in Washington, D.C. as a law clerk, and came to Ohio State in 2008 to complete his PhD in modern U.S. history, which he completed in 2015. So, this is a very varied career, one that's taken him in a lot of different places, but he has wound up doing something terrific, which he will now tell you about.
Well, thank you. And I also have a tendency to wander. So my solution isn't necessarily a time clock, but I do have prepared remarks to keep me more focused for you. So I think often that a general misconception that all IT jobs require specific and very technical skill sets is just that, a misconception. And moreover, it's believed that individuals that don't possess those skills just simply don't need to apply to IT jobs. And to be sure, there are many jobs in IT that are technical in nature. That's absolutely true. And these jobs do require applicants to possess a certain skill set that most of you probably don't possess right now. And some of those jobs, for example, are network engineers and application administrators and systems engineers and software developers. And one of the good things to know is that almost all of those jobs, if you want to go into that, won't require you to have a degree. You can actually succeed and secure one of those jobs. It just will take you a different path to get there. And regardless, most people are just not aware, at least I wasn't when I was sitting in your chair, that a number of the jobs in IT departments actually require a broader skill set than a technical background. These jobs include fiscal officers, office administrators, business analysts, project managers, program coordinators, training specialists, support analysts, market researchers, sales, relationship managers. And that's just at a glance. There's even more. So perhaps a great place for me to start is to give you a little bit of an overview about my background, what my job is. As Nate mentioned, I'm the Strategic Initiatives Manager. My job is actually a collection of a number of activities that are associated with a diverse set of job classifications with IT. I do a lot of market research in the educational technology space. This includes examining market tools that the university might adopt, educational tools that the university might adopt, and also looking at how other institutions have positioned themselves and what tools they have chosen. And particularly those schools that are similar to ours, large research institutions. And ours, in that sense, is also unique. We have over 60,000 undergraduate students here, and that is one of the largest undergraduate populations of any university in the United States. And a related function of my job is relationship management. I work with departments and colleges all over the university to understand the challenges that they face, particularly when it comes to technology, and how we can solve those problems. For example, one of my recent projects is a number of departments here on campus are looking to try to offer public education in a way that they can use our platforms to do so. And because of the security lockdowns that we have, simply can't do that. So we're looking for a technical solution to allow those departments to offer continuing education requirements to the general population more broadly. One of the largest components of my job, similar to Hal actually, happens to be project and portfolio management. I work on a team that delivers the tool sets and technologies that many of you have used in class, including the Canvas learning management system. And project managers, for those of you who aren't really familiar with, organize the efforts of these teams. They create standard processes to govern the workflow, and they measure and document the work within a project. And my role not only does this for one project now, but it does it for a multitude of projects in an actual portfolio. So hopefully in describing my job, I've kind of given you some sense that you don't really need to have a technical background to do jobs in IT. And many of the people that we employ actually in our organization don't have technical degrees. And in fact, many of them come from the humanities. And for some reasons I'll discuss in just a moment. And so one of the things that you may be asking yourself is how I actually use the skills that I acquired as an undergraduate history major in my job every day. And so let me relate just a quick story to you. So way back in the day when I was an undergraduate, sitting in the chair that you're sitting in now, majoring in history and political science, I had a brief conversation with my cousin. And at the time, my cousin was also in college as well, and he was majoring in IT. And I was thinking about going to law school, wanted to go to law school, and I looked at him. This was just after the dot-com bubble had burst in the 1990s. I said, I got to tell you, I don't know that your prospects are going to be quite good. And not only is the dot-com bubble bursting, but I'm looking around and seeing this huge push of IT majors in college going out into the workforce. I just don't think there's going to be demand. So you should probably take away a couple lessons from this. One, as you probably have noticed before, historians are not really good predictors and forecasters of the future. They're not particularly good at that. And the other thing is it really demonstrates one of the first skills that I want to highlight to you tonight, which is critical thinking, and Hal mentioned a little bit of that before. After that, I really thought hard about why I thought that and what I could change about my analysis. And I think that all of you have been trained to think critically so far. And in the years that followed, I asked myself this and what assumptions I had made. And I won't bore you with those conclusions because I think that you would get bored. But what I do think is relevant is that I was equipped because of my degree to re-examine those assumptions as I approached my job search in other fields. And the history coursework that I had up to that point allowed me to do that. And in my current job, I work with a lot of engineers that are really focused on specific technical problems. They often lose sight of the big picture. And one of the things that I bring to that team that is different from those engineers is that I can examine it from a systems level. I can look at the broader picture, and I was trained to do that as a historian, and so are you. Another skill set that you possess that going into IT, the engineers don't have the same background is research. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not researching something in my current role. And by the completion of your degree here, you will also have those same skills and a broad range of general research. You'll be resourceful in the way you can attempt to find materials and resources. You'll be trained in how to seek a broader understanding before diving into the deeper details. And you have a skill set to find the answers and problems when they're not readily apparent. One of the things when we hire new individuals coming onto the team, we always look for people who, when presented with an issue or a question they don't know the answer to, not only is willing to admit it, but will describe a way in which they will find the answer. Because I can promise you, you will not know everything when you enter the job market and enter any job that you apply for and succeed in. You just simply won't. You'll have to research and find the answer to something. Organization and argumentation. Through the research projects you've completed as an undergrad, you've been trained to organize materials and provide a rational argument supported by specific evidence. And each week, I write reports on a wide range of topics, and I'm required to justify my opinions and my rationale. And in order to do that, I have to cite evidence. And you've been trained to do that as a history major. And of course, we've talked about it before already tonight, is communication. It's a big one. It's a core function of what I do, is to facilitate communication within our team, but also within the broader organization and also throughout the university when it comes to the interaction between our organization and other departments. It's probably easier to see how you've developed those written communication skills by writing papers and whatnot, which without question, that's important. And as I mentioned, I write those reports on a weekly basis, both status reports of my projects and also market research reports. But you also have the ability to communicate verbally. You've been trained through discussion sections, right? Through discussions in your classes to quickly and specifically cite material to justify your opinions. And so don't let the traditional thinking about how you've been trained with written communication box you in. You have a very broad skill set. And so to bring it all together now, there are a number of jobs in IT that do not require technical skill sets. Indeed, I recently read an inside industry report from Apple and Google that were also seeking skills outside of engineering, and specifically they wanted people with background in humanities. And IT firms across the globe are also wanting individuals with background in humanities because the skill sets that you have are simply not taught in engineering departments. One good example of that is most of you, or many of you, probably have a smartphone with you tonight. And the interaction that you do with that smartphone, right, certainly an engineer designed that software and interface, but the actual interaction, your experience with it, was designed by people who specialize in user interface. They work with the engineers to tell them how that function should exist, how it should be coded, because for most of us, we don't think like software engineers. We don't want to think like software engineers, right? And so we have to, the products that we consume have to be designed in a way that for the vast public are consumable. And so that is one clear example of where software engineers simply don't have the background and skill set through the tunnel vision in which they approach problems to do the same skill set that you have in front of you. So, in some kind of parting words, how do you get a job in IT? And so let's first make sure that you examine the skill set that you have. Approach it broadly. Some of them I've outlined for you tonight, but there are others that you'll find. One of my best pieces of advice for you is to look at job postings, starting well before you graduate. And imagine that you're being forced to apply for jobs, and particularly jobs that you don't think that you're actually qualified to do. Think that, imagine that you're being forced to do so through the unemployment department. And think about how you would structure an application for those jobs. And then when you approach jobs that you are actually applying for that you feel good about, you feel like you are an outstanding candidate for, you have now made a list of all the attributes that you have in areas that you never thought before existed, and never thought that necessarily your skill set existed in that way to apply for the jobs in which you would be an excellent applicant for. And in that way, I think your applications will be much stronger. So, finally, let me say that I think you possess a formidable skill set in the marketplace. But there's also simply no denying the fact that you don't possess the training in technical areas. Regardless of what you'd like to do with your degree and career, you should think about pairing your degree with either some additional experience, training, maybe a minor, to help balance that out in the application process in the job market. You might consider learning coding, for example, either formally or informally. And again, one of the great attributes of the IT field today is it's very open to people who do not have a degree in technology. Many of the developers that we hire do not have degrees in software development, but are self-taught, and we hire them. You might consider learning to code, and coding is a skill that's really valuable in any career path because its foundation is logical reasoning. And next year, if you're still here next year, you will have the opportunity to learn Swift, which is the coding language behind Apple products, through our partnership with Apple that was recently announced. And this is one of the only institutions in the country that has that partnership. That coding knowledge will be provided to you for free if you want to sign up for it. So consider taking advantage for that. As far as if you want to pursue something specifically like what I have done, there are a number of resources that you can take advantage of to learn how to do project management for free. If you're a member of the Columbus Metropolitan Library, there's a free business learning online learning software called Lynda that has both business analytics, IT, coding, networking, lots of different kinds of courses that you can take. Again, your subscription is free with just a membership of the Columbus Metropolitan Library to give you a basic background, at the very least in vocabulary in the technology field. So one final observation that I'll kind of leave you with is the history degree with its focus on critical thinking, research, and analysis often assumes an inquisitive mind, a lifelong learner. Utilize that instinct. Make sure that you think of your education as a long lifetime process, and regardless of the path that you do choose, whether it's IT or business or public history, don't be scared away by the unknown or the unfamiliar, because most of the people applying for jobs in the future will have to have learned something new in the past few years, and apply that. At the very least, within your career, you will always be learning something new. If you have any questions for me, I work here at the university, have a name number, it's VERNON, Vernon.51. Happy to talk to you anytime. We're also looking at some point in the future to be hiring a student to work with us, a marketing research or market research intern. So look for that job posting if you're interested. We'd be happy to have you. And I think with that, I can either take questions or I might have exceeded my time.
It's all right. We have plenty of time, and yes, we can take a few questions if you have any.
I was actually at something today, I think one of your colleagues was presenting at, because they were talking about the coding, and I thought, oh, that would be something, to have that opportunity, because like I said, I've got video and media production, we have digital projects, like even in I've got people who have done basically what you've said, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And one thing to point out is that Jeff is a example of the fact that there is life after a PhD in history. So if you are motivated to go on to graduate school, as it does not necessarily mean that you will wear a lot of tweed, grow a beard, and wear glasses. You have opportunities.
So it's strongly encouraged.
Yeah. So if you have perfect vision, you may think about a career in technology after your PhD. So a graduate degree in history, is a calling card. It does not necessarily mean that you are going to have to spend the rest of your life in higher education. Lots of careers that can be open to you.